Hey, so we have here at Riverboat Jack Incorporated. I've been saying for a while now that Joe Biden has been shifting his rhetoric in response to the just absolute brutality of Israel's attacks on the Gaza Strip, the confirmed war crimes that have been happening. And while those pivots, those moves have been extraordinarily subtle, you have to be really paying attention to the language that is being picked by the State Department, by Biden and his communications team. We have now reached a point where the subtlety is no longer subtle, right? So yesterday at a live event, right, with an audience, a woman stood up and demanded a ceasefire from the president. Now, of course, a lot of mainstream news outlets like Reuters, right, characterized her as a heckler. But Biden, shockingly, responded. Okay, now this woman said, as a rabbi, I need you to call for a ceasefire right now. And Biden responded, I think we need a pause. A pause means time to get the prisoners out. Now, granted, this is not a call for a full ceasefire, but this is a much different position than what the United States has ever had regarding, like, the Israeli state committing war crimes. Yeah, this is not a lot, but it is something, and it is meaningful movement from the U.S. State Department. Okay? And in fact, we have more reporting here from, or an opinion piece here from the Daily Beast. Biden and Netanyahu look headed for a breakup on unqualified U.S. support for the Gaza war. So let's just take a look here. While the immediate support the U.S. showed for Israel in the wake of Hamas's wanton atrocities of October 7th was humane and appropriate, founded, as New York Magazine's Jonathan Chait has noted, in Joe Biden's moral decency, the very same Biden character trait will very likely soon require a rift with Netanyahu. Which is true, right? This is true because, again, Netanyahu is explicitly trying to ethnically cleanse the Gaza Strip. We've leaked documents. There's leaked statements. There's public-facing statements to the effect of removing the Gazans from the Gaza Strip, pushing them out into Egypt, and then moving in, allowing settlers to return. We covered a piece briefly at the very, very end of yesterday's stream about Israeli settlers who had previously built settlements in the Gaza Strip, now looking forward to returning to their settlements in the Gaza Strip. Like, that's already happening, right? So, you might be like, well, you know, will Joe Biden actually, like, follow through on this? And honestly, yeah. I think that this is going to go somewhere because, again, you have mainstream news like MSNBC, right, putting out stuff like this.
And given these bombings are being done using our tax dollars, perhaps we should ask some questions. For example, how does bombing a densely populated land strip filled 50% with children constitute self-defense? How does bombing hospitals, churches, mosques, and UN schools constitute self-defense? Well, you say if Hamas fighters are hiding in the hospital using the civilians as human shields, okay, let's say they are. Are you arguing that flattening the hospital and killing newborns in their incubators and their moms in the NICU, cancer patients, someone with a broken leg, the doctors, nurses, and just the women and kids hiding in the hospital, that's not a war crime? Because you would be wrong, according to international law. And given these bombings are
like that, these news pieces are now coming out regularly on mainstream news outlets in the United States, which we watched a press conference the other day from the State Department, right, about the Gaza, like injured people from Gaza who are being allowed into Egypt for medical treatment, right? And those reporters are asking actual confronting questions. You know, like, that's not usual. Yeah, they've lost Wolf Blitzer. We covered that clip yesterday. Wolf Blitzer actually grilling a member of the IDF on, like, basic, like, but you're bombing, you were bombing civilians, yes? Well, you know, they weren't, maybe they weren't, but it's a refugee camp. There were civilians there. You know, like, just this constant flow of these stories prompting reporters to actually ask questions of the Biden administration that they cannot answer publicly. They can't answer any of these questions publicly. They can't answer they can't answer for this. Yeah, now that, like, that refugee camp has now been bombed 3 times. Yesterday it was 2 times. Now it's 3 times. I mean, like, god damn, like, just earlier today, right? Just earlier today, Israel-Hamas war, at least 20 killed at school being used as shelter in Gaza, which is a horrific headline, by the way. Again, it's not just like, oh, 20 people were just killed by nothing and no one in Gaza. The footage of the damage caused to the UN school emerged after 15 people were killed when Israel struck the Barouij refugee camp in central Gaza on Thursday. We have the footage here. Yeah. Content warning. Like, just bodies in the street after they bombed a school. A UN school. These stories are coming out every single day, sometimes multiple times per day. Right?
Asterisk win B asterisk got a
sometimes multiple times per day. And yeah, 20 people reportedly dead. Just, it's what, and this is a difficult point to convey, right? These stories coming out matter. People knowing about these stories is crucially important, because these stories motivate people. They motivate people to protest. They motivate people to get out there. They motivate people to make donations, and they motivate people to ask inconvenient questions to people in power. And those inconvenient, pesky questions that are being asked in front of cameras about these war crimes, these war crimes that are being done to ethnically cleanse the Palestinians from the Gaza Strip. These questions are being heard, and they are changing the policy. They are enough, and they are powerful enough to change the State Department's policy. This is what's happening, right? Biden does not just respond to someone in the audience calling for a ceasefire by saying there needs to be a pause for humanitarian aid. That would not have happened like 2 years ago. That wouldn't have happened a year ago. You know? I don't know that there has ever been a time in U.S.-Israeli relations where the President of the United States would say that he needs to pressure Israel to stop waging war, to stop its campaign of ethnic cleansing. Because again, Israel has been doing acts to ethnically cleanse the West Bank and the Gaza Strip for the past 75 years. And to my knowledge, the United States president has never said this needs to be paused. You need to put this on a pause. To my knowledge, that has not happened. For most of my lifetime, the president of the United States has given Israel a blank check to act however it chooses to. So this is a meaningful change. And not only that, it's having knock-on effects already, right? It's having knock-on effects already. Earlier today, Senator Dick Durbin from Illinois called for a ceasefire. Dick Durbin is not a member of the Squad. He is not a particularly progressive senator. Like, he's the second highest ranking Democrat in the Senate. He's about as mainstream of a Democrat, about as an establishment of a Democrat as you can get. And he's calling for a ceasefire now. Yeah, like, Dick Durbin is not a good dude. GamerG points out, like, he's the one who's leading the Judiciary Committee and doing a horrible job. Yeah, he's not a good dude. And yet, even though that is the case, right? He's still calling for a ceasefire, which is incredible to me, right? Yeah, let's just look at this real quick. Asked by CNN's Poppy Harlow whether it's time for a ceasefire, Dick Durbin said, "I think it is. At least in the context of both sides agreeing. For example, the release of those kidnapped should be part of this immediate release. That should be the beginning of it. An effort should be made to engage in conversation between the Israelis and the Palestinians." I mean, like, I think now that Joe Biden has introduced the concept of a pause, other establishment Democrats are going to be following suit. This is indicating that the U.S. state is internally, and, sorry, not internally, that's not the right word I wanted, but it's indicative that the U.S. state is putting pressure on Israel to stop. Now, whether or not Israel will actually stop remains to be seen. But typically and historically, America has been one of the biggest deciding factors for Israel's internal policies. So this is a pivotal moment of change for the relationship between America and Israel, and that could mean, I'm hopeful that could mean good things for a potential two-state solution. Because again, if America throws its weight, like actual weight behind the two-state solution, instead of just like saying, oh yeah, a two-state solution would be nice, right? We might actually see a two-state solution. If America is actually pushing for that to happen. So, I think that is heartening. We're still a long way from being out of the woods, but it is a big deal that this is happening. Gotta huff a little bit of hopium, okay? My assumption is Biden and Blinken traveled across the Middle East trying to end it quietly, and now that failed, the Dems are caving to activist pressure. Yeah, that's my read of it too, GamerG. Like, again, Biden and his comms team are well aware that people are saying that the Biden administration is complicit with like ethnic cleansing and genocide. They know that people are saying that. They see the polling numbers amongst like, you know, Muslim Americans. And they are also seeing that Israel is not changing its approach. You know, like, my read of the situation was that essentially Anthony Blinken visited Israel and met with the war cabinet to try and get them to de-escalate. And like immediately after that, they bombed the Jabalia refugee camp, you know? And then they did it again. And then they did it again. Like, it is